If you're watching this at night, you clearly didn't read the title. But you're a rebel and I like that about you, so welcome to the channel. From a red piano that takes your blood to traumatizing deals with the devil, here are your top 10 scary bedtime stories you should never read at 3 a.m. I'm Youssef and let's get right into this list. Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have The Red Piano. The Red Piano is a well-known Russian story that revolves around a little girl who receives a piano as a birthday present. However, there's a catch. If anything happens to this piano, only one lady in the town has the ability to fix it. So the girl starts off very excited to learn how to play, but after a few weeks of playing, she begins to complain to her parents that her fingers hurt a lot after playing for a while. Her parents reassure her that it's normal because she's new to playing and hey, this is actually a thing. However, in this case, as the girl continues to practice, she grows thinner and paler, and the piano eventually decides to break down. The family then calls the one lady in town to fix it, and she requests to be left alone while she repairs the instrument. When she finishes, the girl continues to play, but her health continues to deteriorate, and the piano breaks once again. This time, the parents are very curious and peek through the keyhole to see what the old lady is doing to their piano, and to their horror, they see her drinking blood from a glass jar that she took out of the piano. As it turns out, the piano keys had tiny little needles built into them that were almost invisible to the naked eye. When the girl played the piano, the needles would cut her fingers and the piano would drain her blood. The piano was then designed to break when the jar was full of blood so that the old lady could come and drink it. Didn't know how this ended up as a bedtime story, but it did. And it's definitely terrifying. Number 9, The Girl Without Hands. The Girl Without Hands is a haunting dark tale of a father's deal with the devil that leaves his daughter mutilated for life. Pretty tragic. The story starts with a desperate father who agrees to sell whatever is standing behind his mill in exchange for some much needed money. Little did he know, the man he is dealing with was the devil himself, who sees all of this as an opportunity to claim the man's soul. To the father's dismay, it turns out that his daughter was standing behind the mill at the time, and so when the devil tries to take her away, she fights back with all of her might. But the devil is not one to be thwarted with easily. He demands that the father chop off his daughter's hands and give them to him in exchange for letting them go. As repulsive as this idea was, the father had no choice but to comply as the devil threatened to take him away instead. With a heavy heart and tears in his eyes, the father then chopped off his daughter's hands and gave them to the devil. I could only imagine the terror on the children's faces after being told this during bedtime. Again, I don't know how this ended up as a bedtime story, but it did. The Lotus Pond. I always got this good feeling every time I see a lotus looking pond, but after this story, my thoughts are a little bit different. It all started with a young couple that were deeply in love and planning to marry. They decided to meet at midnight at the Lotus Pond where they would start their new life together. However, things didn't go as planned and the boy never showed up. The girl was left waiting and waiting until she eventually left, and then to her surprise, she saw her boyfriend with another woman, which completely shattered her heart. The heartbroken girl couldn't take the pain away and returned to this lotus pond where she drowned herself. Months later, another couple decided to meet at the exact same spot, but tragedy struck again. As the boy was waiting for his girlfriend to arrive, he heard a female voice behind him say, quote, "I asked you to meet me at midnight, didn't I?" Confused, he answered no. Then suddenly, eyewitnesses claimed to see two pale white hands reach out of the water and drag him down under. Ever since then, the Lotus Pond has been known as a cursed place in many Asian countries due to this bedtime story. At a number 7 spot, we have Bus 375. The story of Bus 375 is a very tragic one, and it takes us back to November 14th, 1995 in Summer Palace's bus terminal in China. Bus 375, also known as the Midnight Bus or the Bus to Fragrant Hills, pulled into the terminal as the last bus of the night. But that night, something happened that defied all logic and explanation. As the bus driver began to make his final run, two passengers boarded the bus, an old man and a young one. But as they headed towards the last stop, the driver spotted three shadows waving at the side of the road. Being a kind-hearted soul, the driver decided to stop and let the three men board the bus. However, something was off about them. Their faces were indistinguishable and they appeared to be floating since none of them had any feet. Shortly after the three men boarded, the old man picked a fight with the young man on board, accusing him of stealing his wallet. The argument escalated and the two were eventually kicked off of the bus. However, as the bus drove away, the old man's demeanor suddenly changed. He told the young man that he just saved their lives, as the three passengers who just got on earlier were actually ghosts. The following day, bus 375 was reported missing, only to be found 3 days later at the bottom of a lake. Inside the bus, there were 3 decomposed corpses, believed to be the same ghost who had boarded the bus the previous night. Number 6. The Black Volga. The legend of the Black Volga was told to many European kids, and it refers to a mysterious black or red GA721 or GAZ24 car that was allegedly used to abduct and murder people in the 1960s and 70s in countries like Poland, Romania, Hungary, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Greece, and Mongolia. According to different versions of the legend, the car was driven by various nefarious characters. These included communist police, Russian mafia, and some say even Satanists. But there are some say even Satan himself drove it, with some versions saying that the victims were kidnapped for their blood, which was supposedly used as a cure for rich Westerners or Arabs suffering from leukemia. The legend of the Black Volga even spawned various variations, such as the car having horns instead of wing mirrors, the number 666 on the license plate. In the hump of our list, we have the Mystery House. In a small neighborhood, there were 5 houses very close to one another, all except one, which everyone referred to as the Mystery House. The children in the neighborhood often made up stories about who they thought lived there and what they thought was inside. Then one day, a boy went to play in the nearby wooded area with his G.I. Joes when he suddenly felt like someone was watching him. He decided to pack up and go home, but before he left, he heard a girl's voice say, quote, "You don't have to leave." He turned back to see a little girl with messy hair and a thick flannel shirt buttoned up all the way to the top. They struck up a friendship and played together for weeks to come. The little girl explained that she lived in the Mystery House and that her room was the entire top floor, almost like an attic. Her room had one window that looked out into the wooded area. However, after a while, the little girl disappeared and stopped coming out to play. A few months later, the Mystery House went up for sale, and the boy's family went to the open house so that everyone could see what was inside finally. But instead, the family met the couple that lived in the house, and they explained that their daughter had passed away a few years prior. This revelation made the boy's head spin, as he had just played with a little girl a few months before. He wondered who he had been playing with this whole time. Then a few days later, he went back into the wooded area and looked up at the window that the little girl had explained was the window to her room. When he looked up, he saw the mother staring back at him, expressionless. It was then that he realized it had been the mother all along, pretending to be her deceased daughter. Number 4. The Sweet Girl of Ancol Bridge. This tale follows a young singer who met their fate on a dark and unfamiliar bridge. The young woman's name was Mariam, a girl who is said to haunt Ancol Bridge in Indonesia and cause fatal accidents to those who walk it. Legend has it that Mariam was a beautiful maid who was in grave danger from a rich man. She feared for her life and ran, but the man had money and goons. They chased her, she ran fast, but eventually cornered her on this bridge. And from the 1960s all the way to the 1970s, it's said that her spirit wreaked havoc on men who walked this bridge. Number 3. Room 111. Room 111 is a story that has evolved over time, and it revolves around a science undergraduate who believes he had discovered the key to time travel. In the original version of the story, there is a man who wraps himself in a mechanism of wires attached to an alarm clock and a battery in room 111. He believes that when the alarm clock goes off, he will be able to travel through time. However, things go terribly wrong. When his friends try to find out his whereabouts, they discover him in room 111 with a note laying beside his deceased body saying, quote, "I will come back." This is when apparently the friend went on a slippery slope to insanity and was later admitted to a psychiatric hospital only a few days after entering this room. Number 2. The Red Room. If you're an internet troll who likes messing with people or just an ordinary TikTok scroller, you're all a potential victim of the Red Room. The Red Room curse is a Japanese story that emerges from the depths of the internet, in which the user receives an unexpected and unwelcome pop-up ad. You see a red screen with black text that reads, "Do you like the Red Room?" Then you hear a sinister voice repeat the phrase. No matter how many times you close the pop-up, it will continue to appear until the voice has finished its question. Once completed, your screen will flood with red, then names start to pile, the names of the victims. No one knows what happens after that, but one thing is always the same. No one really knows what happens after that. Number 1. Jiangshi. Also known as the Chinese hopping vampire, the Jiangshi comes from a phrase meaning stiff corpse. They are psychic vampire zombies. Yes, you heard that right. Who feed off of a person's chi rather than their blood. And for those who don't know, chi is considered to be a person's life force, which means that it's energy that flows through you and your entire body, basically giving you life in a sense. So unlike the vampires we have over here, the Jiangshi prefers not to consume humans or our blood, and they also aren't able to walk as they are seen hopping around with their hands out front to maintain their balance. Well, these are the top 10 scary bedtime stories you should never read at 3 a.m. What do you guys think about this list? Leave a comment down below with your thoughts and some suggestions for some future videos. I'm Youssef. Click that like button, subscribe, and that bell notification so you never miss a future video again. Hope you guys have a scary day.